Welcome back for day 8 of 10 riffs in 10 days. Today we've got a doozy from one of my favorite bands. This is the song Red by Leprous off The Congregation. We're going to take a look at this, I guess you'd call it the chorus section, this part at 2 minutes into the song. And this was by far the hardest of the 10 riffs I'm doing in this series to play, and it wasn't even close. Way harder than the Arch Spire, harder than all of the other ones, and I was not expecting that, but the patterns in this riff are mega difficult. I'll get into the riff in a minute, if you can even call it that. It's really more like an arpeggio sequence. But first, I want to talk about what's happening underneath it. This whole song is in 5/4, and there are these classic Leprous stabby rhythms, as I call them. Definitely something I'll do a separate lesson on sometime. The pattern doesn't have a ton of exact repetition, though this is the main one-bar rhythm in this section. I think that's part of the theme of this riff is the lack of repetition. It's one of the things that made this one so hard to play. Harmonically, there's a 5-bar pattern, and this is all coming from D harmonic minor. Maybe I'd call it A Phrygian dominant, as that's where this starts. And this isn't exact, as these chords kind of fluctuate because of the pattern on top of it. But it's basically an A or A7 to C sharp diminished 7 to D minor major 7 to B flat minor major 7 with a 6th. And then back to C sharp diminished 7th. And this is all coming from that D harmonic minor sound. What's interesting about the vocal part is that Einar is singing a lot of C naturals here. And C natural doesn't come from D harmonic minor, it actually comes from D natural minor. So there's some mixing of different minor sounds here, which isn't that uncommon. Notice also this idea of fives. You have a 5/4 time signature and a 5-bar chord loop. This is another thing that's making this whole section feel unorthodox, the odd phrase length and the odd rhythm. So that's what's happening under this riff. Now let's take a look at the actual part. The overall pattern here is 10 bars long, which covers 2 repeats of that chord loop. For me, I kind of took this 1 bar at a time when I was learning it. And that brings me to the actual playing of this riff. I'm not 100% that this is where the riff is being played on the guitar, and I'm not even 100% sure I have all of the notes completely accurate. It's very, very, very close. But this part of the song is super dense, and it wasn't that easy to pick everything out by ear. I only found one half-decent live video of this song, and it looked like he was doing a combination of alternate and economy picking, which honestly I couldn't get up to speed. I ended up going for more of a combo of alternate, economy, hybrid picking, and then a little bit of legato to get this as clean as I wanted. All that to say that I transcribed the notes and then worked out the best fingering for me personally, which I don't think is 100% accurate to how it's being played on the album, but it is what it is. Here's the first bar. And keep in mind, when I was playing this up to speed, I was doing more legato because it's a little easier for me to play, but I believe it's mostly being picked. And these lower notes, especially on the lowest string, are being palm muted. That's kind of a constant through this whole riff, is the lowest notes being palm muted. The second bar is the pattern here that repeats the most often. Bars 5, 7, and 10 are all the same, and they're all variations on this second bar. Here's the third bar. And they're probably fingering this one differently, doing more on the B string. But it was a little easier for me to stretch it out a bit. Here's the fourth bar. This one is really weird. It might be the hardest measure to play. It probably actually makes more sense to do that high note on the B string, but this is how I was playing it. Very bizarre. The 6th and 8th bar are kind of similar to the 3rd bar. Here's the 6th bar. I have the open A string in there, although I'm not 100% sure on that. And here's the 8th bar. And lastly, here's the 9th bar. In every measure here, this is basically arpeggiating the chord progression I showed earlier, and inside each measure, it's grouped as 6 and 4 for the most part. So in the first bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the entire riff with the tab. What makes this so hard to play is that lack of exact repetition and the really bizarre patterns. This part is first played in the synth and then translated to the guitar for this section, and it really feels like something that was written for a different instrument, and that makes it a great challenge. I did my best to play this as cleanly as possible, but it was a serious pain, and I want to spend more time on it if I was going to do a proper cover, but this is a really cool part, and of course, a great song. I'll see you all tomorrow for riff number 9 of 10 riffs in 10 days. Till then, stay proggy.